Hello, hello, hello. I am Valerie Day, and I am the host of the podcast Prayers and Pussy, where we have candid conversations about spirituality and sexuality and everything in between. And I'm super excited about our guest today. We have Reverend Veronica Silva in the house.
Woo woo.
And Reverend Veronica and I have had a divine appointment with Spirit since we went on retreat in Sedona
Mhm.
and talked all about prayers and pussy. And I asked her all these questions about her journey from being the Catholic to Science of Mind to going from straight to gay and all of that. So we're just going to get to hear all about Rev Veronica's journey. So Reverend Veronica, I met her through my spiritual community. It was originally Namaste, and now we're Pacific Coast Center for Spiritual Living, and she is an amazing religious science minister. And I'm going to pass the baton to you, Rev Veronica. And if there's anything you want to, she used to run a yoga studio, and if there's anything, and she's a nurse, she's a registered nurse, so she just brings like a really awesome eclectic background, having run a yoga studio, being a nurse, being a minister. So her knowledge is deep and wide, and she's great at being vulnerable. So feel free to share whatever you want to introduce yourself, anything beyond that, but also if you just want to open up and kind of talk about what was your journey like. You were raised Catholic, you're a Latina girl, and then when did you discover, like, I think I'm gay? Like, to kind of take us on that whole road for you
From the beginning.
in the beginning.
In the beginning. In the beginning. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on your podcast, Valerie. I feel like when we were talking about it around the table, I don't know, a few years ago, to now being in it and on it, it's great. It's a great manifestation, and it just makes my heart happy. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So, gosh, well, yes, it came from a traditional Latin Catholic family. You go to midnight mass, on Christmas Eve, and you do the rosary, and all tradition, very traditional. And I will say that my family is very unique from most Latin families in that I have, there's four siblings, and three out of the four of us live non-traditional lives, in that we're all gay. And I have one straight brother. And so my oldest brother kind of paved the pathway, opening the door to sexuality, in a different way that I knew about as a young person. I was very closed and protected. And when I got to high school, I played a lot of sports with a lot of lesbians, softball. But at that time, I was like, there were very masculine women, my butch girls. You know who you are. And I'm like, oh, if that's what's gay is, I feel like I didn't fit in at that time, because that wasn't who I was. And so I kind of closed the door to that and said, I must not be gay, because that's the only way that I have seen it expressed. And so I closed that door and lived a life, that everybody else wanted me to live.
So
And
you were kind of having those feelings, but you were like, no, that's not me.
that's not
Like
me.
you,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
okay, all right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I shoved it all down, and lived the life of a straight woman, and got married, had kids, and bought the house. And I wish I could say I lived happily ever after, but for a little while. And then I divorced the father of my kids. And then I got sober. And that opened up the world of spirituality to me. That's where I kind of started turning from my Catholic upbringing to into spirituality. And because they told me I could find a God of my understanding. And I'm like, oh, okay. I can, find something different than what I'm, was brought up with. And And then I started to recognize again that I started having those feelings. This was in my 30s.
And
And
do you think that you were able to get, do you think that the drinking was linked into like you weren't living authentically? Do you think like there was this,
yeah.
I'm a lesbian, but I can't, like, what do you think that played in?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, definitely when you shove things down, it doesn't go well. It
Yeah.
doesn't go
Yeah.
well. You either explode out or you drink them or use something, a substance, to
Mhm.
cover it up with. And so 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 I still wasn't ready to explore that side of me, and I still was such a people pleaser, really didn't want to upset my parents. And so the first person in AA who looked at me or showed interest in me, I just married him. So
Ah,
I was just like, oh, he likes me, okay, let's get married. So,
oh,
yeah, yeah. But that was a divine appointment because he had two kids and I had two kids, and we were like the Brady Bunch, and we really helped each other. I feel that was a real blessing, that relationship, because we helped each other raise each other's kids, and we were both getting sober, and we just supported each
wow.
other in
Yeah.
understanding, going to meetings and trying to be a better person in the world. And so yeah, and then in that relationship is I was doing some personal work through some workshops, and then it started knocking a lot louder. It was like, because I wasn't drinking anymore, right? So then I had to like start dealing with life on life's terms.
Oh,
Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. And so in that marriage I just was like, oh boy, I cannot deny this anymore. And yeah, so what I did is I just asked, my husband, I said, hey, that was a really hard conversation. I will say
oh
that was
my
a difficult
gosh.
conversation.
Oh,
Talk about difficult conversations. I was like, there's this thing. And I was so uncomfortable. And I just told him, I said, this is something that's been within me for years. I have denied it. I said, it might be something that I need to just explore and find out, is it for me? Is it not? Is it really true for me? And I said I could do it in the marriage if you like have the capacity for that, or if not,
yeah.
then we have to end the marriage then. And he's like, no, he did
No,
not.
I don't have the
Yeah,
capacity. That isn't my wheelhouse to
yeah, yeah,
let
yeah,
you go
yeah,
off and explore your
yeah,
feminine urges.
yeah. So
Wow.
that took a lot of so I had some support, from a therapist and friends that and it was a really, I will say that was a really, it was a good man, good marriage. But I had to finally like be true to myself and answer that which kept knocking.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
because it's not going to stop. It's going to keep knocking till you give it attention.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I can't go back to drinking it all away. So
Darn it.
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, and not that you wanted to at that point, but it's
Right,
like
right. No,
sometimes
but
it's like, shoot, I wish I could be so much easier,
it would, right,
but it's
right.
not. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've always, I've tried to live, from my truth. And so what
Yes.
happens when you try to live from your truth is that the truth keeps revealing itself. Okay, how about this time? How about this time? And so I chose to, I didn't have to, I chose to say, okay, if this is, the truth of who I am, then I'm open, I surrender to you, God, and let's go. Let's go find out who I am. And
Wow. Wow.
yeah, yeah. Oh, talk about uncomfortable. I was in my mid 40s.
Wow. Okay. You're in your mid 40s. And then when did you find signs of mine? So you've had this conversation with your husband. I think I like girls. So then
Yeah,
you got divorced and then
right.
and then like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, I found
And
science
then
of
you
mind.
confirmed it. You confirmed I like girls.
Yeah. Yeah, so then exclamation point.
And how did, because I remember earlier you were like, when you were in high school, it's like, oh, well, I'm not like, butch girl, so I guess I'm not lesbian. How did you, that had been like 20 years later. So when
Yeah.
did that come into like, oh, there's all flavors and yeah,
Yeah.
but how did that realization happen for you?
Oh, it was like such a relief, it was like,
Ah,
wow,
oh,
yes.
there's every one of every
Yeah,
kind, every flavor, shape,
exactly.
and
Oh my God, talk about like an eye opener. And because more people were coming out and more, it was just more people were free, to come out. And it's like, wow, okay, I can relate with her and I can relate with her, so I started like seeing
yes,
people that I could relate with. And then it was felt more safe for me. I'm a
yes.
big safety person, I want to feel safe. And that's why I didn't come out, as a teenager. I didn't feel safe. And so that, yeah.
Wow.
And so I found science of mind somewhere between right after I got sober. Right after I got
Oh,
sober.
okay. So when you were
Yeah.
with the gentleman that you met in
In high
sobriety,
school. Yeah.
like your second husband.
Yeah, yeah. My mom took me to Agape, and the rest is history. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
And when did you first go to Agape? What year?
Oh my gosh, it was probably 1997. 1997.
1997.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
In my first year, I was 1999.
Oh, yeah, we were there at the same time then.
August of 99.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I found a Science of Mind church closer to me because I wasn't living in the LA area at the time. I was living inland more, in the inland area. And so I found a Science of Mind church and started going there and wanted to become a practitioner. And,
And how did that call happen? How did the like, I want to become a practitioner?
yeah, well, I saw such, I was still fairly newly sober, still had a lot of baggage that I was working through. And I saw the light on in the eyes of the practitioners at my center, and I was
Hmm,
just
hmm.
like, and such a reverence and passion for God. And I had that in me too. I had that in
Yes.
me that was starting to wake up. And so I was like, oh, what do you have to do? And but they just, pointed me in the directions, and I started taking classes. You know, um, and I was still going to two centers. I was attending my center in Claremont, and then I was attending Agape because Reverend Michael used to come to me in my dreams. And so yeah, I
Wow.
had like a really strong connection with him. And so I still stayed really connected with Agape for a long time. So
Wow. He came to you in your dreams. I love that.
yeah, yeah. So that's was pretty much
And
the
did you, and so then you started in classes, and then did you go to through practitioner training at Agape or through at Claremont?
at Claremont. Yeah,
You did.
Claremont. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, and then I moved to back to LA to be, near my parents, and then I rejoined Agape again, like full time. But I let my license go. I let my practitioner license go because I didn't want to go through Agape's I just didn't, I was trying to find my way. I was
Hmm.
I was rebirthing myself, really.
Yes, yes.
I was rebirthing myself and discovering who I am and what I wanted, and exploring the world, exploring the world of women. And and it was really beautiful process to the freedom that I felt when I allowed myself to live from my true nature was an
Mm,
unexpected gift. It's a really
mm.
unexpected gift. I was like some tight container that I had been wearing for most of my life had been lifted. And then I just felt
Wow.
so free. I was like, I can exhale and relax
Mm.
and just be myself and be okay with it. So
Wow. I
yeah,
can feel it as you describe it.
it was definitely a gift of freedom to
Yeah,
live.
it makes me think of the moment, this teaching. I think I was probably only in like what we called Psalm 2 back then. And I
Mhm.
was moving from Long Beach to West LA. And I can remember, and I grew up in a household that we were big warriors. Like my mom and dad were like, excellent warriors. And so I learned that. And I can remember, like you're talking about, being yourself and that lift and that feeling and that exhale. It was like, I realized like they were helping me move. And it was like as if this weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Like I realized when I was witnessing my mother doing some worrying behavior that, oh, I don't have that anymore. And it was through
Mm.
the teachings of Science of Mind, right? Like I had
Mhm.
taken foundation and now I was in like Psalm 2, and that it was just this freedom,
Right.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah, you know that feeling. Yeah, when some limiting belief or some limiting person or limiting behavior is now no longer a part of you, you just have that release. And
Now, unfortunately, I still do have some worrying, but it was like that heavy, right? It was like, yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. So,
yeah, definitely,
oh,
definitely.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. Where were we on the journey? Where did we leave off? What else do we need to know?
Ah! Well, it's
Huh.
interesting is that after being hang going and being back with Agape, the call to ministry started knocking. That started
Oh.
knocking again because I knew it back in my 30s as well. I'm not one to like answer right away, apparently. I need a few
Right.
20
It
years.
took you 20 years to like say, oh, I guess I am really gay.
And then in my 30s, I knew I was going to be a minister. I knew it.
You did.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then it didn't happen until I was in my 50s
Would you
instead.
do things that were like giving sermons, or what was it? Like, how did you know you were going to be a minister? Was there,
Well, a couple things. In my dreams, Reverend Michael said, "You can do what I'm doing."
oh God, did that like, how did you receive that? That's big.
I know. I was like, I can. Like, I was in my 30s, and I was still fairly new on my spiritual path. And I was like, I can. And I was like, okay. Like something inside of me knew I could, but my personality, was not,
Yes, our
was hadn't
ego.
hadn't grown into it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And then when the voice started knocking again in my 50s, early 50s, then I was ready. Then I knew I was ready, and I'm like,
Wow, that's
okay,
amazing. You have this little 20-year that I love that.
yeah,
I love that you like get it's like a seed's planted and then
yeah,
it has to blossom, and then you say, "Oh, look at this."
yeah. Like I'm ready. Really, it's about being ready. And when I was in my teens, I wasn't ready to be a gay person in the world. You know,
Yes.
and so 20 years
Yeah.
actually.
You're like, "Oh, I'm gay. This is yes."
Yeah, this is really okay.
And
Uh,
then when you were 30, like, "Oh, I'm not ready to be a minister." And then so when did you start in ministerial school?
oh my goodness, 20, about 2015, 16.
And did you go to Holmes Institute in downtown LA?
I went to Holmes Institute, but the LA campus is at the Redondo Beach Center, and so it's right in my
Oh.
backyard. And
Oh
so
my gosh.
I transferred over to Redondo Beach, renewed my practitioner license, and got started in ministerial school. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, for our listeners that don't know, so both Rev Veronica and I belong to a community called Pacific Coast Center for Spiritual Living, and she gives the best sermons. And so I'll put in the show notes so you can like listen to some of her previous sermons. But what I love about when you talk, Rev Veronica, is one, you're so accessible, and then you seem so like relaxed and in your body, and you just have this wisdom that comes out of you that's like everyday, like this everyday wisdom that's like deep
Mm.
but accessible. So
Mm.
yeah, I love when you give sermons. I love when you speak. Yeah.
Thank you so much. The second part about when you asked me what made me think that I wanted to be a minister
Yes.
was that right when I was getting my divorced from my first husband, my
Yes.
mom took me on a trip to Sedona.
Oh,
And
Sedona again.
yeah, Sedona's been in my life. And she had this woman who, I don't know if she was a reader or healer or chakra. I don't know. It was fairly
Intuitive something something.
something. So she came and gave me a reading, and she said to me, so I was like 31 years old. She said, you need to stand in front of people and talk, because when you speak, people can hear what you say.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Right? So I was like, oh, okay, okay, and then 20 years later.
Right. And it's so true. I love that that's how she said it, because that's my experience, right? Like I can hear what you say, right? And
Yeah,
it's not even hearing, but it's like it's a hearing, it's an inner hearing. It's
yeah,
like
it's
a
an inner.
knowing. Like
Hmm.
when she said they can hear what you say, it's like they connect with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's between those two things that happened in my early 30s. I knew at some point in my life that I was going to be speaking in front of groups, and so
Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing I think it's like on that line of what she said was like, there's like this authenticity, right? So it's like that comes through. Yeah. So it's like, that people can, when, what did she say again? She said, when you
Hear
speak,
you.
people
She
hear
might
you.
even have said received you. Now that you're saying that, I think she said receive. People can receive you. I
Yeah.
think that's actually what she said. Yeah. It's a long
Yeah.
time
And I
ago.
think that they can receive you because that you're so accessible. Like you're very authentic and you're very accessible. Yeah. You're just kind of down to earth, you
It's
know.
funny that you say authentic, because I received some pointers, some tips from a minister, maybe about 15 years ago. And she told me not to share, like, don't share like your inner stuff, and people want to know that you've surpassed or won the battle, or they want to know that you're on the other side of it and that you don't have any like problems. That was the advice I got. So,
Oh my God. Thank God you didn't listen to that. Thank
so
God somebody else gave you better advice, or your inner knower knew that that wasn't right.
yeah,
Because, I mean, you think about the hero's journey. I mean, people that are successful in the world are successful in the world because they're being vulnerable and people
yeah,
can feel it. And then they're getting to the other side. Like you can share, like, well, I was here and now I'm here,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it took a little bit though. I had talked to a lot of people because that was kind of ingrained, because I respected this person,
Oh,
and
yes.
so it was kind of a little bit like, okay, don't just share from the front, not from the depth. And so
Yes.
that was a journey as well to that authenticity, was just
Yes.
to get there, because that was not what at first what I was told. So, and and also, growing up with worrying about what my parents think too, that's another filter to authenticity, because I just didn't want to disappoint them. My beautiful, I love my parents. They had to go through my brother, oh, I'm gay, and then my younger sister, oh, I'm a lesbian, and then me 20 years later, after I'd been married twice to men.
They're
So,
thinking, okay, we've got some
yeah,
hope.
yeah.
We've got some hope for somebody that's going to practice our religion.
Right. And so, I felt at first, the response wasn't very positive. And so there was like this for me, like I let them down, and, but
Oh,
that was part of the journey, right? To honor all of it, and to be and still be authentic anyways.
yeah, yeah,
Despite the responses that others might have, that being true to myself had now become more important than the opinions of others, including my parents.
right. Well, I kind of took the like easy way out with this podcast. So my parents, I know you know this, Rev Veronica, and some of our listeners might, but I was like you being raised about Catholic, I was raised about Mormon, right? And when I procrastinated on doing this podcast for 4 years because I was really uncomfortable with the title like Prayers on Pussy, right? I'm like, oh, I can't have something that has pussy in it, and just all the uncomfortableness with that. And
Right.
then my practitioner said, Valerie, your parents aren't alive anymore. You have a lot of freedom to just do whatever you want now, right? So I totally sympathize with you being, still having to worry about that. Like it's a big challenge. And it does give you a level of freedom. And I remember, both. It's interesting that there's three in your family. There's three gay
Siblings. Yeah.
siblings, and then one that's straight. Well,
Yeah.
in mine, there's two and one. There's three of us. So
Uh-huh.
both of my older brothers are gay, and being raised devout Mormon, I felt like I had to be the perfect little Mormon girl because,
Mm.
oh my God, my brothers are gay, and like I'm the last hope for
Oh,
mom and dad,
you
right? So I
you took
felt
on
all this.
responsibility.
Yes. Yes, I took on
Yeah.
responsibility that I didn't really need to, but that's
Mm.
that parent pleasing and people pleasing because that's how, we are.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Especially as females, females, we somehow took on that role of, people pleasing and don't rock the boat and all of that,
Yeah.
you know.
And it makes me think about when I was in practitioner training. Um, I'm sure you remember when you had to, as a group, you had a group and you put on a workshop.
Hmm.
The workshop that we put on, I remember one of our classmates had created this giant altar, like it was huge. I mean, it took up like, yeah. And so my parents were so amazing that even though they were devout Mormon, they'd always come and support whatever I was doing. So, they came that
Oh,
day to the workshop. And, when we got to the section where it was, he created this experience where we were having a meditative experience of walking around the altar and just observing the different things. Well, in their faith, right, you shall have no other gods before me. And there's some scripture about idols that you might know. You're probably better at the Bible
hmm.
than me. But like, so my mom just graciously like didn't do that exercise, right? Like she
Oh,
just like she came and supported me, but didn't do that part of it. And like I just, with Mother's Day having just been, 2 days
right.
ago, like I mean, she was just so amazing that
Yeah.
um, you know,
That's
how they
that's
showed up.
yeah, and that's so beautiful, like to stay true to yourself and be able to support you at the same time. I mean,
Right.
that's such an unselfish act of love.
Right. It was.
Yes,
It was.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
that's
I'm just
really
so grateful
beautiful.
for that. Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
I'm for
yeah,
doing that. And I could feel like her being like, oh my God, what are we doing? But she just, stepped back. That's okay.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe the observer.
Aw, yay, mom.
Ah,
Yes.
well, is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you want to talk about or any burning, like anything that's on your heart?
Um, the one thing I think that has been a flavor throughout my journey was like when I used to drink away my emotions, right? I just didn't deal with them. And one
Mm-hmm.
thing that I realized over time is that at some point in our life, it's a really great idea to start becoming, friends and comfortable with having emotion. I didn't I had a lot of anger, especially as I was getting sober. I had a lot of anger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even sure what exactly, if I thought of that, it was just anger at everything, like my marriage falling apart, and just the world, just angry at the world. And so to honor every all the emotions, and honor and love the parts of me that are hurt, and love the parts of me that are angry, and love all the parts of me that make me the unique expression of me, that
Mm-hmm.
has
Mm-hmm.
probably been the going on in the background, if you will, of
Mm-hmm.
the forefront of my journey that I've shared with you, was
Yes.
how do I be okay with my anger? How do I be okay with my shame? There was a
Mm,
lot of shame, that I lived with a lot of
mm,
shame. How do I love my shame and myself? Is it because it's a part of me? Just like my
mm,
hair and my eyes and my nose are a part of me, so are my emotions. And So that's been a huge blessing to be able to navigate my emotions like that.
Oh, wow, I love that. I love
Mm.
that you said just like my hair, my nose, that's part of me, my emotions are too, because we don't think about that, I mean, our society is becoming much more aware. You see people talking about, emotional,
Mhm.
EQ, right?
Yeah.
So there is more of an awareness, but traditionally, like we've been so programmed to be disconnected from our emotions. So I love that
Yeah.
um remembering like, oh, that's a part of us too, not just our nose and our mouth and yeah,
Mhm.
that are
Yeah, and
yeah.
there is this misunderstanding that spiritual people, don't get angry, or people, like I put the Reverend in front of my name, all of a sudden I'm godly, like what?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have any emotions. I love everybody and I'm perfect.
Perfect. So it's that's been an interesting journey of like, yes, I have anger still, and yes, I make mistakes, and
Mm,
I try not
yes.
to hurt other people's feelings, and I try to be really mindful, and I'm human, and I'm human. Catch myself sooner, I clean up my messes sooner, I'm back to center
Mm,
sooner than I
mm,
used to be. But I have learned and to grant myself grace, and
awesome.
that way I'm hoping that the people around me can grant me some grace too in my own humanity. you know,
I
so
love it.
yeah, to honor it all, because because denying that we have these feelings, like denying that we have shame, denying that we have fear, denying that we have anger, is the same thing that I was doing when I was denying that I was gay. It's the same
Right.
thing.
Yes, yes, it is. It
Yes.
is. You're right. Yeah, well, I remember, on the topic of sobriety, I've never formally like worked, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say never formally, but I haven't been, a 12-step person. I guess I did one year that I did the steps, but I haven't really worked a program per se.
Hmm.
But my drug of choice is marijuana. And I remember early on for somebody that like do you remember Forenza from Agape?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, but so early on, like I went to this mind body worker and her bestie was like Forenza's daughter. And so this was when, she was working with me to like really like be conscious. And she's like, Valerie, I don't care if you smoke pot. She goes, I just want before you smoke that you stop and connect with, why am I smoking? What's the reason I'm smoking? Right?
Mhm.
Because she knew in her infinite wisdom, right, that
Mhm.
I was smoking a mask something. So, just stop and
Mhm.
get clear and bring awareness to like, what is this habit? What is this habituation? No different than if
Mm.
I was like, mindlessly like eating. It's like bringing that consciousness. Yeah.
Yes.
So, which is what
Yes.
you're talking about here. Oh, and
Mhm.
so what made me think of that story was when you said shame, because that the shame, like that if I smoked secretly, if I'm not bringing awareness to why I'm doing it, and then I'm doing it shamefully, feeling guilty about it, it just keeps that like self cycle. It's a cycle of
Right.
abuse. It's
Right.
just an abuse to self, it's no
Right.
different than, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, yeah. And I drank because I didn't want to feel
right.
anything, and it just
Yes.
numbed me out.
Yes.
And so
Same
that's
here.
been the journey of feeling all the emotions and becoming friends with them,
Yes.
honoring them. So, I mean, in our belief system, we believe everything is God. Every God is infused into everything, every aspect of life, and so that includes our emotions. That
Yes. Yes.
God is there as well, because they're our teachers, aren't they? What we get angry at, what we're ashamed of, all those emotions, as well as what makes us happy and joyful, and they teach us about ourselves.
Right. It makes me think of Inside Out. And I think they just came out with like Inside Out
There's
2.
another one coming up, I know.
I think so, but like when
Yeah.
you said, right, it's a part of us. I could picture all those cute little emotions. Right. I mean, but how great that they made a movie about our emotions so we could really like connect with
huge.
them. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
huge. That's so huge because I think this is the next evolution of humanity, is that we start to honor and become aware of emotion. Sometimes I didn't even know what I was feeling,
right.
I
Yes,
knew I was angry, but that really wasn't anger. It was like shame. And then it manifests as anger. If I stopped and looked at it, many things were manifesting as anger, but the underlying was the root of it was different. And
right.
so,
It's not always easy to get to the root, right? Because
yeah.
when she would say just stop before,
Hmm.
right? It's like it was
Right.
so
Yes.
hard. It was so hard to stop and really identify what
Yeah.
am I feeling.
Oh, that's a great
And
practice. That's a great practice.
yeah, it was avoidance. It was not wanting to feel like you. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
Probably some shame. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That shame one, boy. That's some
I know,
child.
and it just the shame, it just keeps the cycle of whatever alive,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
No matter what the whatever the habituation is, you add shame to the mix, and you're just going to keep on that little
Yeah. Hmm.
hamster wheel.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So good.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else we want to talk about? This has been
Ah,
so awesome. I love all this. And I love that, the unscripted version, we just go on a little journey and,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
get
yeah.
to dance with all the wonderful things that we're learning and doing and being. And
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Yes.
What was the breakthrough for you to finally start your podcast? What did you walk through?
Um, what did I walk through? Well, at first, right, I was really uncomfortable with the title, right? So that took a
Mhm.
while. And then there was the perfection and the comparison because I'm a big YouTuber and I listen to like the people I listen to, have like 5 million followers or a million followers or they're like
Mhm.
global sensations, right? So
Mhm.
so they're like, who am I to do this? And then that like perfection, like, oh, like the like being feeling stuck, right? In like how do I like go forward? So this is what the final impetus that got me to do it. And then I still procrastinated a smidge after that was I don't know if you know Donna Gershman from Agape.
Mhm.
She did a podcast and somehow it came up on my feed and I listened to it and I messaged her through like Facebook Messenger, said, girl, I love your podcast, it's great. And then I said, I have one that I'm gonna do, but I've been procrastinating on it. And she literally, and like she's not somebody I talk to on the phone like all the time.
Mhm.
She's like, are you free? um and she called me and she said, listen, I did the same thing you did. And I thought I had to have all this stuff and be perfect and have a sick technology. She goes, just do it. Just have fun. In the beginning, nobody's listening anyhow. Who cares? It doesn't have to be perfect. Just like let yourself do it. Like,
Right.
so she really just gave me permission to just do it. And then I still, after that, procrastinated a little. And then it was like February 20th of this year, like it had been like 4 years since the idea came through. And I was like, it's time. I'm just doing it. I'm just doing it. And
Yes.
so, and then I was afraid too that if I did it, would I keep doing it? Right?
Hmm.
Would I have it in me to like do it every week? Could I really sustain this? But what I've learned about myself is when I look back at my history, like once I start something, like I keep going, like our morning prayer call, that's, the
Oh,
Monday through Friday
yeah.
prayer call,
Yeah.
like I've been doing that for years. I like did a 365 science of mind where every day I'd get on the phone. So I am somebody that I can start and stick to something. But so it was like all my humanness, it was all my
Yeah.
humanness,
Yeah.
comparison, perfection,
Right.
and then also like, who am I to like, I mean, I was uncomfortable with the title, but
Hmm.
that came through. It was a divine idea, right?
Right.
Like, who
Right.
am I to argue with the divine?
Right. Yes. Yes. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
So you walked through a lot.
I
That's
did. I
that's
did.
that's how we grow, right? That's how we grow is
Yes.
like through walking through that hard stuff, like having hard conversations like I had to have with, my second husband and
Yes.
the things that make us uncomfortable are the things we can either choose to run in the other opposite direction or head towards, and then we're a whole new evolution of ourselves because of it. So
Yes, yes.
I commend you.
And it was my own coming out, right? Because
Right.
I had to come out and feel safe to be me, like, right? And so there was that fear, like, oh, I'm feeling little tears coming. So, you struck the chord, the truth, my little heart's opening if the tears come. But it was like, oh my God, what are my friends that don't believe in God or don't pray gonna think? Like, what are people gonna think? Like just that
Yeah.
worried about what are people gonna think?
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
big one. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and
And
and
yeah, it's great.
does it matter at this point anymore?
No, oh my God, I'm so free. I'm so free. And I don't know if I shared this with you, but yeah, I had somebody recently ask how my podcast was going. And I said, "Oh, we have a small but mighty following." And she said, "You might want to think about changing the name. People are uncomfortable with sex." And what was so awesome, it was such a gift for her to say that and share her opinion, because in that moment I just felt like, oh, that's her stuff.
Mhm.
This is I'm supposed to be doing this. And
Yeah.
so it was just awesome to get that. It was a gift that she gave me to share her opinion. And then
Hmm.
it's like, that's your stuff. This is the platform. This is the platform I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be,
Yeah.
and and the reason, like, the importance of, like, prayers and pussy and everything in between, for me, where that came through and why it's important in this day and age, is that we're so divided, right? You have, the two-party, system of
Political.
Republicans, Democrats fighting against each other, black and white. Like, there's such, like, division in our world, all the wars and everything. And that, when you look, like, people aren't, like, seeking understanding through curiosity. And so I felt like that this platform's about having something that's seemingly two different topics,
Hmm.
spirituality and sexuality, that aren't usually talked about together. Let's come together and have a
Hmm.
conversation about something that we don't, right, talk about. And even if, like, each session isn't exactly those two things, it's the consciousness and holding the space for that, right? So that's
Right.
why this work is important, is that we're
Yes.
holding that space of oneness, that space of,
Yes.
connection, that space of understanding, right?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. So when you put two things that seem, like you said,
Seemingly,
seemingly opposites,
right.
that if we can hold that space, and we can hold it for other areas in our life, in our world. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So that's the
definitely.
deeper, like, core of the podcast, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
And
thank
I'm a sexual girl, so pussy's okay.
you. Hey.
Hey.
I really appreciate
Well,
this
any other questions you have
opportunity.
for me?
Ah, let me see.
I shouldn't have asked that.
I know, right? Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling complete. How about
I
you?
know, I am too. I just
Yeah.
have to reference, like, your green Tara is gorgeous. For
Oh,
those
thank
that
you.
don't know, her statue in the background is green
It's
Tara.
Green Tara on that side, Kuan Yin on that side.
Oh, I couldn't see Oh,
Yeah,
good,
she's behind
gorgeous
all
Kuan
my
Yin.
beads over
Awesome.
there.
Okay, now, is
Yes.
there anything, I'll definitely put, like, how would you like people to contact you? I can put that in the show notes. Are you open for, like, receiving clients, counseling sessions or speaking opportunities, or what would you like? Is there anything you want to offer to our congregation, to our community, to our listeners, to our congregation?
Sh- all of the above, all of the above.
Okay.
My email is the best way to reach me.
Okay.
I started a website, and I just need a little help in that area. So
Okay. So any website people, reach out. She's available
that
to
I would
receive your
gladly
support.
accept.
Right.
So
Okay, well, awesome. Well, we'll put your email in the show notes so people can contact you. And
okay,
I like to close our conversations with prayer, our podcast with prayer. So let me just move into that.
all right.
So just recognizing that one mind, that one power, that one infinite intelligence in all,
Mm.
as all, through all, my life, the one life. I just give thanks for this opportunity that we've had to just connect and have this conversation and get to know Rev Veronica. And I just know that her message falls upon the open hearts of our beautiful listeners, and that they receive this and it nourishes them in exactly the way that they need to be nourished. And we just hold space for each person that's listening to this to have the freedom to be their authentic selves, to speak their truth, to observe and include and witness and befriend their beautiful, amazing emotions, all of them, good, bad, or indifferent. We know that it's all them. And so we just hold that space of consciousness, of gracious acceptance and love. And so I just know that all needs are met in time and on time, that whatever prayer is needed, it is happening right here and right now for each of our listeners and beyond. I give thanks for this opportunity for us to just be together. And so I just release this prayer to the action of the law with deep thanks, saying, and so it is. I release, I let go, I let God. Amen, amen, amen,
Amen.
amen.
Amen. I release and I let
All
go.
right. And you can in the show notes, you can reach me as well. If you want a more interactive experience, I lead a meditation call and we have sharing and prayer requests, and that's Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. I'll put that in the show notes, and
Oh, you
you
could
can
put that
reach
for
me.
the Four Agreements
Yeah.
class too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. The Four Agreements class. So we'll put that in the show notes. Rev
Okay.
Veronica teaches the Four Agreements once a month. She has a gathering on Zoom, and then once every other month or every
Oh, once a
quarter, she does
quarter.
something in person. Once a quarter,
Okay.
she does something in person on the Four Agreements. So we'll put
Yes.
that in the show notes. I should have asked you about the Four Agreements. And if you want to book a counseling session with me, you can go to my website at valerieday.com. So signing off, everybody. We love you.
Thank you.